Get a prompt start. We have a busy agenda today. I will ask Regent West to do the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Bell.
Present.
Regent Ball.
Present.
Regent Brinkley. Present. Regent Henson.
Present.
Regent McKinney.
Present.
Vice Chair Melkin.
Here.
Regent Nichols.
Here.
Regent Spiller.
Here.
Regent Thomas.
Here.
Secretary West here, and Regent Winter.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have 11 regents present. That represents a quorum of the board.
We've got the full house. And appreciate everyone being here today. We have our minutes from our fourth quarterly meeting, December 10th. Chance to look at those. So I'll entertain a motion. To stand approved. A motion and a second. Regent Thomas is second. We approved the minutes from our fourth quarterly meeting. Any discussion? Correct. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. The Academic Affairs Committee will start out, and I'll ask Regent West to take over.
Thank you, Chair Bell. We had at our Academic Affairs Committee meeting, we had an approval of the Cybersecurity Data Analytics Master of Science, and I think Provost Fisher has a few words he wants to say about that.
Just a reminder that it will be housed in the Gordon Ford College of Business in Information Systems Department, and that it is a master's degree designed for what would be working adults. So it's what we see, and it will create flexibility not only for them, but for other people who are looking to go back and get that degree. And it will be, which is great, the new degree will leverage faculty expertise that's already in the college. So.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the Master of Science in Cybersecurity Data Analytics?
So, second.
Any other discussion? Questions? We will move to a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Great, thank you. And then we have another item that was also approved in our last committee meeting. It's a sabbatical recommendations. And Provost Fisher, do you have anything to say? Or anything?
Yeah, just to remind everybody that it's 12 faculty members from all the colleges that who are on the list to be able to take sabbatical, which could be either 6 months or 1 semester or 2 semesters, depending on their choice. In addition to that, to be eligible, it's 6 continuous academic years of service at assistant professor or above, a compelling, we hope a compelling sabbatical application that tells us how they will enrich their professional lives. And with that.
Second.
Any discussion, any questions? We'll move to a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And next we have the approval of the University Distinguished Professor, which was also mentioned and voted on in our committee meeting. Provost Fisher, do you have any?
Yeah, I do. It's a pleasure to have the person here today. Dr. John Chippewa is here. He's an outstanding performer as well as teacher. And since it was asked of me to have him play for a few minutes for us.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher.
And John, please tell him about your career.
Will do. Good morning, Dr. Cavoni, Provost Fisher, Board of Regents, and guests. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate the honor and the recognition I will give you a little brief background on myself and maybe a nice story that I think could be connecting with what I do here at Western for the last 20 years, and then play a short little couple of excerpts, one of the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, maybe a minute or two of that, and a little jazz piece on the alto saxophone for you. I came to Western in 2002, and I've been a professional musician before that and since then. So I have lived in New York City for quite a number of years as a sort of, I guess you would call it a freelance woodwind player. And that career started when I was actually in college. And I got a call from a contractor who was a personnel manager who hires musicians at Radio City Music Hall, and someone got sick. And I had to drive into New York in my little 5-speed Toyota Tercel, hoping it wouldn't break down. And I made it there, and the musicians in the orchestra talked me through the music. And without any rehearsal, I just went in and played, and I must have done an okay job, so they hired me back. And then that became my position there for 34 years. I just retired from that job this past year. While I was in New York, I played in a lot of different venues. I played with a lot of different musicians, Liza Minnelli, Liberace, Dizzy Gillespie, Dionne Warwick. I mean, there's a long list of people that I would have performed with while at Radio City Music Hall or in various other venues. I've been on a lot of recordings. Part of what I would do is to give you a little insight in what we do as musicians. We often have little specialties, and my specialty is the clarinet and the saxophone, and also the flute as well. And so when people would want to have a recording made that they need a specialist on those instruments, they would know the pool of people that would be good at those things, and that's what I would be often called to do. So if there was a recording of an artist, Mandy Patinkin is one that comes to mind, who was in some TV shows. We did a very big record for a whole week with him and Dawn Upshaw, another singer, of a Leonard Bernstein show called On the Town. And we performed that at the Lincoln Center City Opera for 2 weeks, and then we did a weeks-long recording of that. So all of those little, they're not little, but jobs would come up throughout my weeks and months, in addition to my, I guess you'd call it my day job, meaning working at Radio City Music Hall, and I would also play Broadway shows. So the longest one I did was the show Cats, and I was there for 9 years. And when I was hired here at Western, one of my colleagues in the music department asked me, well, how could you do the same thing for 9 years in a row? And I have to tell you that it's not about the repetition of the music, it's about playing the instrument and being as precise. Those audience members are coming there to hear something that they will probably never hear again in their lives. And it's our job to be as high level professionals as we possibly can. So we really do try to be on our A game every single time we come in to perform professionally. I have, over the last, I'd say about 12 to 15 years, have developed some friendships, professional friendships with colleagues, particularly in Italy, but throughout South America and actually various parts of Europe. I have some very good friends in Belgium who are mostly clarinet people, but some saxophone people, Hungary, France, quite a few. And so I have, through those friendships, I've been invited to judge competitions. I've probably judged about maybe about 10 or so international clarinet competitions. And to give you a perspective on what that is that they're looking for experts who have a reputation. So there's no application for those kinds of things. They seek out people who they know have a pretty substantial reputation to give very precise feedback on these competitors. So as I've gone to those competitions, if they like the result, not who wins or who doesn't win, but the honest result of the adjudication, then they invite you, kind of probably like a lot of other professions, invitations through recommendation. So in the last number of years, I've been to Bulgaria, Czech Republic a couple of times, Peru twice, Italy countless times. And so that has also led into festivals. People invite me to perform at festivals as well. Portugal, I've been there about half a dozen times. Now, since the pandemic, all that kind of stopped, but it's going to start to ramp up again. So I'll look forward to that. Interestingly, I've been able to do this while working here, and I have to curtail what I do. I don't get calls every day for these things, but often about twice a year, I would go out somewhere. And while I was still working here at Western, I was commuting to New York. And so fact, Richard Weigel, I think, Richard, a history professor who recently retired a few years back. I saw him on an airplane one day coming back because his daughter lives in New York. He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, this is my weekend job." And so I would teach Monday through Thursday, teach all my students, and then get on an airplane on Thursday afternoon, get in there. And the most efficient way was actually, believe it or not, a bus and a subway into Manhattan. And then I would just get in the orchestra pit. I have a father-in-law who lives in Brooklyn, and I would often stay with him for a few days and visit with him, perform Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, get back on the plane and come back and teach Monday morning. There have been some times when I've had to come back even just for one day. We've had some very important events in our music department where I'll come back on a Sunday, do the event Monday, and then go back to New York on Tuesday. So that has kind of curtailed from the pandemic, and also after enough years, I've decided to put my energies towards other things and maybe just slow down a little bit. One quick story I would like to tell you, and I was going to just be a little symbolic here. This is a reed. It's a piece of wood. This piece of wood is actually from Argentina. And I have actually two very good friends in Argentina. One who makes reeds. He's from this company, Gonzalez Reeds. But another who performs down, our colleague of mine. We've made a recording together. We've performed numerous concerts in a clarinet quartet together. I look at these every day. I have them all over the house. My wife complains about them. They're everywhere because this is what helps me make my sound on my instrument. But to me, the symbolism of this little piece of wood is kind of generational. So when I started to work at Western some years ago, about the second or third year, I had a student named Ricky, and Ricky was first generation college student. He didn't really want to come to college, but he kind of thought that's the thing to do. His dad is a mechanic. His dad worked on cars and really wanted him to go into that business with him. And so he, just like a couple of his friends from Grayson County, he decided to come to college. So he didn't go to all his classes. Sometimes he didn't do so well in some classes. And I had a few heart-to-heart talks with him through the years, through the semesters. And by around the fourth or fifth semester, I had a heart-to-heart talk with him. And I said, Ricky, first of all, you need to stop smoking cigarettes. Second of all, you need to come to class. And third of all, if you want to actually do something, you want to be an auto mechanic, go do that. But if you want to be in college, stop wasting your money and come to school. And so I don't know that I made a difference with him in particular, but around that sixth or seventh, maybe sixth semester or so, he started showing up to class. And by then, he, within the student teaching semester, he was a music education major. Most students wait till the summer to start looking for teaching jobs. I think by about April, he had a job lined up in Breckenridge County. Within 2 years, he was bringing students down to us, to our events, as possible students to come to our programs. He became a hero up in Breckenridge, a band director, music director. Some years later, 5 years later, Penny comes, knocks on my door. I want a lesson with you. Who are you? Well, I'm one of Ricky's students, first generation. So Penny went through our program. She wanted to do 3 different majors. She finally settled on music and she pursued through our program. She graduated. Ricky moved up to be an elementary school principal. Penny took over his job. I got another knock on my door. It's Amber. Hi, who are you? I'm one of Ricky's last students before he went to take this teaching job. But do you know Penny? Of course, yes, she's up there. It's 3 generations now. And so when I look at these reeds, that's kind of what I think. This reed is about 15 years old and it's brand new. And it has to be cured and dried and turned in the sun in Argentina and cared for over time. And that's, I think, what we do as teachers, what I do. And we work with these young people and they're not perfect. But that face-to-face contact that we give them is really what keeps them connected here. And so Breckenridge County, today, I'm going to go up and work with a Grayson County student who, again, probably 4 generations before me, when I first started working here, we had a graduate who was already graduated and teaching in Logan County, and he's still sending us students because he knows what we do. So I meet with them one-on-one, these students. That's my job, a studio teacher, one-on-one. Sometimes I work in small ensembles. When I can get off campus, I go out to the public schools. I've been in Bowling Green High School this semester every Wednesday. So that's who I am, a little bit of who I am. And then I thought I'd just play a little bit for you. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take up more of your meeting time. I'll try to make it brief here because I do know you have a lot of activities to attend to today. Mozart wrote a clarinet concerto that is now played all over the world. It's probably the most famous piece for the clarinet ever. And I'll just play a very short excerpt of this three-movement piece for you. And the saxophone, I just particularly like this song, so I thought I'd just play one little bit of it for you. It's called "Stars Fell on Alabama."
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I used to play the clarinet, but I didn't sound anything like that. Very fortunate to have you there.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
Thank you for the support.
If we ever needed a universal language, we need it now, and certainly musicians bring that to us. And what a career you've had, and how fortunate for our students to have someone as distinguished as you now are on our campus. Could have been in New Orleans on that last piece.
All right, and our last item on the agenda is.
We need to vote. So
Sorry, forgot. All right, and we had the motion already.
So moved.
Okay, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, and last item that we have on the agenda is the approval of honorary degree recommendations.
Yeah, the request is approval and honorary doctorate of humanities awarded to Ms. Angela Alexander Townsend and an honorary doctor of public service to Mr. Abram Williams. I'd like to take just a few seconds to talk about each one of them, if that's okay. First of all, Ms. Townsend had a distinguished 40-year or close to 40-year career in education. During her career, she received numerous awards, including the Kentucky Distinguished Educator, and was inducted into the Kentucky Teacher Hall of Fame. Ms. Townsend is a former resident of Jonesville, and I believe by honoring her, we're really honoring the residents of Jonesville and the contributions they made to the university, to the area, and to the state. Mr. Williams spent his lifetime in service and commitment to the well-being of others. Mr. Williams serves as the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Bowling Green, where he has served as an advocate for people who are seeking safe and reliable housing and opportunities to grow beyond their current circumstances. He's also gone farther than that. He's established the after-school tutoring program, as well as the welfare to work program, which are two of the many ways that he has given back to the public to make Bowling Green a better place. And I think they're two really good people who I think we can do a great job by giving them an honorary doctorate.
As a Bowling Green native, very familiar with these two individuals, and I think given all of the things that have been going on and the great progress that the university's made in diversity, this is just outstanding. And knowing these two people personally and been engaged with them, I would stand as a testament to the contribution that they've made to helping many people in Bowling Green strive and have an upward path for mobility. So I'm honored that the university is considering this.
I could join in that. I've been around here for many years myself, and I know these folks work, and I particularly know of Abraham Williams' work. And he continues to do that same work. It's not something in his past. It's an ongoing, everyday proposition with him, and I think these are highly deserved, and I highly recommend it as well.
I would have to say that I concur with George and Terry. I've known Abraham many years and have worked with him on many programs, and he is a lovely human being. So I agree, this is a great honor.
Pretty West, I'll add my comments as president. There are few things that are as enjoyable as making these phone calls. Both to Ms. Thompson and to Ms. Williams, both to a T, humble, surprised, gracious, and more than deserving because of their work. They're just fine human beings, and they are exemplars of what we all strive to do because of our time here at the university. So I was thankful for the opportunity, and I look forward to, for those of you who do not know them, introducing you to them at commencement this May.
We have a motion to approve the honorary degree recommendations for Mr.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All official.
Thank you very much, Regent West. Interesting. We'll next turn to finance and budget. Present that to us. All four items on our agenda today were presented at the committee and voted approved on the committee meeting. Would anybody like to pull out any of the items for separate consideration? All right, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items that be 1 through 4. Thank you, sir. Thank you, George. Does anybody have anything that they would like to discuss with these items? Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
All right, consent agenda passes, and we have no presentation, so that is the shortest ever.
That's good leadership.
You deserve it.
I needed this one.
You deserve that. So, thank you very much. We'll move right on to the executive committee meeting. We have several items on it for our approval. And first one, we did discuss at the last meeting in terms of utility easement Chick-fil-A. Update on that, okay, that was covered and discussed. Anything new?
Nothing new on this end.
Right. I will entertain a motion then.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion. Left and a second from the right, and any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Utility easement is approved. We have with us today our athletic director, and I think he may wish to make a few remarks or brief presentation concerning the next two items. We'll take the first one. We'll do them one at a time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bill. Good morning, everyone. We're on a roll until now, so I've been trying to just a real quick overview, and then obviously would be happy to take any questions. I think, as you all know, there's 14 schools in Conference USA, and we are 13th in budget in Conference USA. And in most conferences across the country, there's a pretty direct correlation between those who spend the most win the most, those who spend the least win the least. Proudly, we have defied that. That has not been the case here. And the reason is because of our people, most notably our coaches. You know, I really feel like we have a collection of coaches that are outstanding. The two that we're talking about today, very much so. And I think the important thing for us when we have great coaches who recruit true student athletes and have success on and off the court is that we maintain continuity. And so that's what we obviously both have been here, but I don't know which one you want to talk about first. Like Tyson Helping maybe, or
We'll do the volleyball first.
Travis Hudson. Travis has been here 27 years. And we are fortunate to have him. He's had many opportunities to lead Western Kentucky, but you know, sometimes it's a cliche. People say WKU is in my DNA, but in Travis Hudson's case, it is 100% the truth. And I think he's not just an ambassador for athletics, but I really think the whole university. In the last 10 years, it's incredible what he's done. 7 of the last 8, we've made the NCAA tournament. The last 3, we finished in the top 25 in the nation. So this really just acknowledges that, gives him an increase. And in both these cases, the increase in pay is coming from private funds through the Hilltop Athletic Foundation. It's not part of the state budget.
We have in our packet recommendation. So I'll consider a motion for item number 2, approval of the athletic employment contract for our head volleyball.
So moved.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion?
Chair Bill, if I could just say quickly, as Coach Hudson is a graduate of my department in our college. And as such, we take great pride. I think he's probably the only one who's had a leadership profile of him in Forbes magazine, I think it was. And, you know, he's got great accolades, but obviously in what he does. And I would also just point out what a great campus citizen he is. He comes back to pre-pandemic, and we say that a lot. Pre-pandemic, I convinced him to come back and speak to my class once a year and watch him connect with the students. And this was something he would just do to try to connect and make a difference. And I saw him make a difference with those students. And so it's rare that on any academic campus that you have someone from athletics willing to come in and try to make that difference. And he absolutely does that. So it is with great pride that I see this and recognize someone who has been completely committed to this university in every way. And I think we should be recognizing that in a profound way. And I'm glad to see it here.
Good. Very quickly, you know, when we talk about the history of the university and people that will have made an impact as employees, Coach Hudson is someone that has dedicated his professional career to this school. Quite literally, for those that know him, know he is an actual hero. He has saved lives. And I cannot think of another employee that I admire more on this campus right now, Travis Hudson. So I think this is an outstanding move.
Very good, President.
Mr. Chair, I echo the sentiments and also want to add, if you think about our level of competition in volleyball, success has been terrific. But what is even more impressive is Coach Hudson's managed to do that with essentially a perfect graduation rate. Every student who comes here to play volleyball gets a degree and goes on to a professional career. And it is exactly what we aspire to do through athletics here at the university. There's an expectation for winning, which we meet, but more importantly, it's for transforming lives through education. He is a shining example of that.
Hearing comments like that and hearing Professor Chipola, you see what sort of contact our students have with professors and coaches who are great human beings. Is something that does separate Western Kentucky University from a lot of other places. So, any further discussion?
You don't get any better than 100% graduation rate.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item number 3 concerns our football coach.
Thank you. I'll actually add one more thing on Coach Hudson really quick that I think just speaks to the culture that he's created. It's not a great time for collegiate athletics as a whole in terms of the transfers and just the change in the system. It's a little troubling, to be honest with you, but in the 27 years that Travis has been our head volleyball coach, in 27 years, we had 2 players transfer out of the program. So I think it just speaks to the culture that he's created and really pretty unique in this day. On Coach Helton, this is his second go around here. He was here on Jeff Brom's staff for 2 years as an assistant coach, 2 outstanding years, one of which we won a conference championship, both of which we won a bowl game. Then we brought him back in 2019 to be our head coach. 3 years he's been our head coach. We've been to a bowl game each of the 3 years. We've won the bowl game twice. We won a conference championship this past year. And actually our quarterback set the all-time college football records for touchdowns and passing yards in the season this past year. And we got a lot of notoriety from that. And we'll continue to as Bailey Zappi approaches the NFL draft, the NFL combine session in April. And I think with Coach Helton, what this does is just recognizes what he's done. And for us, if you know our history, we've had a lot of success, which has been good. Unfortunate byproduct more times than not when we've had success is our coaches have left for other opportunities. And Coach Helton wants to be here, and I think this just increases our chances to keep him here.
Good. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second for approval of the athletic employment contract for our head football coach. Any discussion?
If I could just ask, and I'm supportive of this, so this has not been as a challenge in any way, but just as we watch the exponential salary growth in college athletics, football just exploding and driving so much of the change, your general philosophy, what's your guiding principles in trying to manage all those salaries, given, as you said, we're not spending as much as some of our competing institutions. How are you approaching this and looking at what you're seeing across the country?
Well, what we really try to sell is the overall package here. I mean, if it's only about the money, then we're probably not as likely for people to leave. I mean, we're probably more likely that. So we have to be fair on the financial side, but we try to create an overall situation that is a great work environment. And I think that's really helped. With Coach Helton, I would point out in 2013, our head football coach made $850,000. 2022, our head football coach will make $900,000. Most places in the country have had an enormous growth in 9 years. But the fact that we've been able to have the success we've had, and I think still be responsible within our budget, and I'm not denying the fact that $900,000 is a lot of money. I wouldn't try to pretend otherwise. It is, obviously, but comparatively speaking, nationwide, we're seeing a lot of examples where people are paid a lot more than even at the group of 5 level. So, to answer, I hope that answers your question. We just try to create the overall work environment here that is healthy and people want to be a part of. And obviously there is an opportunity for growth. We have lost a number of assistant coaches. That's just the way it is. But we all feel, and I've always felt, I'd rather have the challenges that come with winning than the challenges that come with losing. And one of the challenges that comes with winning is occasionally people leaving and having to deal with that. And that's better than the alternative.
What's the budgetary implication as far as this is concerned?
Same as Coach Hudson's. It'll come through the Hilltop Athletic Foundation private funds. It's $100,000 annual increase.
Mr. Chair, if I may as well, the off the field success of our football team also is impressive. The vast majority of students who play football for us have a GPA above 3.0. And that is unusual in collegiate sports. It's even more unusual in collegiate football. And if you watch what Coach Helton has done, he has retooled and managed staff turnover in each of the years because of the great success we've had. He will do that again this year. And to my eye, it's both the stability in the program that's important, and for the sake of the program success, you never want a coach or an athletic director in the final year of their contract, because that creates uncertainty. Other coaches will use that against the institution to create the perceived uncertainty. And so I appreciate us doing this in year 3 and not having to wait till the end of year 4, which actually would cause us some significant difficulty.
I think it's also important to point out that a lot of the success has to do with the culture that is established, and the athletic director has a lot to do with that. Not that you can absolutely prevent an incident like the Wisconsin-Michigan State after game incident, but I do think we emphasize having good people, and hopefully we don't have any problems like that.
I would just echo what you're saying, in that when you think about big time athletics, what we've been able to achieve here is pretty impressive. It really is. And then to do it at the financial level that we're doing. God, you're right. I want to say $900,000 is not a lot of money, but when you look at other institutions that are paying a whole lot more, that are having less success than what we're having, I do think it's the leadership, both at first team level and at the athletic department. But it is phenomenal. It's an entertaining thing that's on the field that we get to see, and we're winning. And I just think we ought to commend you as well for the work that you're doing, that to be able to keep them and retain them as long as we can, so that we can continue to be successful.
Any other comments? Discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Have I already entertained a motion? I believe I have. Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Good, thank you, Todd.
Thank you all.
All right, Mr. President, I'm going to turn executive item number 4 over to you.
Very good. Mr. Chair, some introductory comments for our Vice President of Philanthropy and Alumni Engagement, Amanda Tribute, who's joining us here. Really pleased about this opportunity. I had the great privilege of knowing Jim and Eva Martin's my first go around in Bowling Green, and we got to know one another, although not closely, when I cooked bananas Foster for them tableside at Andrews. And there are interesting times in one's life. I got to do that again for them at dinner at the house when I first returned as president, and have been so thankful for their leadership, their kindness, and their investment in this institution and our people. And so we have a tremendous announcement today. I've talked with the chair about our need as an institution to think about cultivating and developing the next generation of philanthropy at the university. And while Jim and Eva have been important investors over time, the size of this gift is special and ranks them among the largest donors now in WKU history. And So with that, I'll hand it off.
Everybody. Very honored to seek approval today for a philanthropic naming opportunity for Eva and Jim Martins for the Eva and Jim Martins Alumni Center. Jim is a native of Michigan and arrived here on the Hill to graduate in 1972 with a degree in agriculture. When you speak with Jim, you'll hear him talk so fondly about his time on the Hill and those mentors who really shaped his life and his lifelong commitment to the city of Bowling Green. Upon graduation, Jim also made his first gift to the Hilltopper 100, which is the precursor to the Hilltopper Athletic Foundation. That was in 1972 when he purchased his first season tickets. He's not missed a season since. So a 50-year ticket holder for WKU Athletics. Eva and Jim have supported countless initiatives across the university. Students, our faculty, and our programs, in particular our athletics teams and their students. They've also tremendously impacted our community, serving on a variety of boards with volunteerism and their philanthropy. At WKU, Jim has served on a variety of boards, most notably the HAF board, WKU Foundation Board of Trustees, and our real estate corporation. Eva and Jim currently own Jmar Properties, serving as real estate investors across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. The WKU pride runs deep in the Martins family. All 4 of their children are alumni, 3 of their spouses, and one granddaughter today. Today, we make this request in recognition of a new commitment of more than $5 million that the Martins family has committed to WKU to support WKU Alumni Association, WKU Athletics, through a current pledge and a state commitment. This naming opportunity represents a new era for our work to bring Hilltoppers back together on the Hill in our beautiful alumni facility on campus.
I guess. What time and effort and work has gone into that for a few years. Avid fan of athletics, but understands the greater mission of the university. Importance of an alumni center that brings not only alumni, but this is a special announcement and a special day.
Good job, Amanda.
I'll entertain a motion and then we can have other comments.
I could do this one, please.
Okay.
I think that the Martins and being on boards with him and also being part of the Alumni Association National Board, I can't think of a better.
That motion from Regent Henson, do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Regent West. All right, any other comments, discussion?
It's worth noting publicly for the record, even though it's in our notes, that the 50-year ticket holder, that's very impressive. But the joint gifts for 41 consecutive years, I think, is a testament to the real importance of what WKU means to the region. When you've got a couple that are that dedicated, and we see that over and over, right? But I think it's absolutely worth publicly acknowledging that 41-year consecutive joint gifts. I mean, that's just impressive.
Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We have some information.
Mr. Chair, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. John Mark Francis and Ms. Andrea Hales will be presenting next about our marketing communication efforts. John Mark and Andrea were recently promoted in a reorganization of the marketing communication office. Some of you may remember that conversation from the fall. They have done a terrific job. These two, along with Jay Slux, are the communications and marketing triumvirate for the university, and in many ways operate in concert with one another to create a strategic direction for us. And I've been really pleased to work with them. to mentor them, as I would call it, to critique them, as they might call it. Yeah, but most importantly, to grow talent here within the university. So I'm pleased to have them share with us the work that they've been engaged in for many years, but certainly as leaders of the division for the past 9 months.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. We're always excited to talk about the ways in which we continue to reimagine and reinvent marketing's role in supporting the recruitment and retention of students to WKU. So I'll talk a little bit to begin this morning about how higher ed traditionally structures marketing alongside divisions of enrollment management. At WKU, enrollment management falls to enrollment and student experience, global learning and international affairs, the graduate school. Those are the individuals who conduct the on-the-ground recruitment of students, helping them progress through the enrollment funnel from prospective student to enrolled student. And university marketing offices have always historically operated largely separately from those functions. They focus on brand guidelines and establishing top of the funnel brand awareness. But we were charged with completely reimagining that approach to the relationship. The private sector over the past 2 decades has more closely merged operations of marketing and sales so that they're working more closely in customer development along the way. So we've implemented portions of that here at the university, much of that here, so that we still do brand guidelines and help guide the institutional narrative arc, but we're also much more involved with air support in the recruitment of students that occurs at each funnel stage and through each of these divisions. So as the university was making this fundamental shift, we were also met with a brand new generation of students arriving on college campuses. The digital natives, the students who have spent their entire life curating their own music collection through Spotify or Apple Music, students whose news feeds are tailored to them through their social media channels. And what this meant was this generation of incoming traditionally aged college students was no longer receptive to the communication plans of the past. The idea that we have a binder and everyone gets the same message at every point throughout the year is finished. And what we have now is an era where nearly 100,000 separate communication plans have to exist. This is the number from Allison Campbell in the Office of Undergrad Admissions on the number of prospective first-time, first-year students that they have in the flow. And so each communication plan has to be a little bit different, and so does our marketing approach throughout the way. It requires a significant amount of data to get to this, and another area from which we've borrowed a page from the private sector. There are national data firms that provide clustering and persona information to help guide audience awareness. And so instead of analyzing customers, we analyzed our students and sought to learn a little bit more about who our students are. We know things like their average household income, the types of TV channels that they watch, that they generally drive American cars with an auto loan that's less than 3 years old. This is an actual cluster for WKU that represents between 15 and 20% of our incoming class. For competitive advantage reasons, I'm not going to include the name of it, but we also get at household information like their parents' occupation. You see in this group, the majority, or at least the preponderance, their parents work in craftsman or blue collar positions. So if you think about how we activate that data, think about our institutional messaging. Climb with us, climbing to greater heights. Life at the top is worth the climb. It does a couple of things. It's fundamentally true about the WKU experience because we all know that hilltoppers climb, but we also know that that messaging that conveys grit and perseverance and determination resonates with the students who are enrolling at the university. We also activate sales data like the responsiveness to items mailed to their home. We know that this group is 26.2% more receptive to mailed items than the general population. So that, of course, informed the strategy to significantly increase the number of items mailed by 240% over the past few years. All of this data is helping us to be more personalized in our communication. And it's not just inserting the student's name into a communication. We did that a few years ago and we thought we would check the box and be done. But that's not what personalization is. Personalization involves shifting the language entirely from talking about what we do as a university to what the individual student can do and the opportunities that are afforded to them on campus. And it also means that communications have to be deployed and advertising has to be sent at times that are most relevant for those prospective students, whether it's a campaign that's launched after they visit campus for a tour, or whether it's information about a specific academic program. The advertising that we do as an institution, the paid outreach,
also has to be increasingly targeted along the way. So it's no longer about just that top of the funnel brand awareness, but really inserting calls to action throughout the process. So that if we have a student who's expressed an interest but hasn't applied for admission, we can serve digital ads that say apply now. If they've been admitted but haven't registered for orientation, university marketing is deploying advertisements that say it's time to register for orientation at WKU. All of this is also population specific. We need to communicate differently to adult students than we do transfer students, differently to in-state students versus out-of-state students. So looking at geolocation information. And the other thing is that all marketing needs to be multi-channel. It's not just digital ads, it's not just postcards or email campaigns. We also need to look at how we deploy terrestrial advertising like billboards and use data to guide that to know that it's most effective in areas for where household incomes are above 100,000 and primarily effective for individuals under 34 years of age. So thinking about those things, TV advertising. The majority of our traditionally aged demographic watches television exclusively through streaming services. So we've shifted our ad buys away from broadcast television toward Roku and Hulu and streaming services like YouTube TV. As we continue this work, the idea that if you're not a prospective student and you're not seeing the significant growth and outreach that we've done, it probably means that we've done things correctly because we're trying to target the students who are going to enroll. None of this work is possible without significantly deepening the partnerships we have with the communications and marketing professionals across campus. Over the past few years, we've done a lot of work in breaking down this house of brands and building more toward a branded house with a consistent look and feel. There's a reason that many of the things you see appear red and white, and it's not just Regent Henson because the fight song calls us to raise the red and white above the rest. It's because we want that common visual identity for the university so that the work that one unit does is buttressed by the work that another unit does. And when an item lands in the mailbox, it's instantly recognizable as something from WKU. One of the reasons that I was asked to or invited to speak is questions about how we market specific programs and how we support the recruitment that occurs in those departments and units. When we talk personalized, we have to talk about the area of interest, where a student is, what major they've intended. The Office of Undergrad Admissions right now currently has 90 active academic message campaigns and over 400,000 emails so far this year on specific academic programs. But we also have to be prepared when new programs come online. So in March of 2021, the university approved an online Bachelor of Social Work program. Anna Kerr in Academic Affairs Marketing set out on a paid advertising campaign. Over the course of the year, they had 116,000 impressions, 62 inquiries, and 21 students enrolled in that program in the first year in the middle of a pandemic because of the digital advertising and the funnel stage specific information that's rolling out. This partnership also involves communication and marketing professionals from across campus and getting them together and sharing information and sharing insights and sharing some of this data and to make sure that we're all singing from the same sheet music. And the sheet music is our strategic communication calendar that has key themes for the month and events that are coming up, as well as reminders for all of these marketing and communication professionals across campus to hit on items that touch on our brand pillars so that we're consistent in our messaging across the university. I'll give you one example of how over the past 30 days, we've blended together professionals from across campus, the university's paid and earned media strategies. Coming up on March 31st is the priority deadline for housing applications for prospective students and application to participate in the LLCs. So we really focused on how can we build interest in that. We kicked it off with a video beginning of February to soften the ground, explain a little bit more about what LLCs are. Then on February 14th, we really started a blitz. President Caboni emailed campus with news of the record-breaking retention success, calling out specifically success in those LLC communities. We issued a press release, which got wide coverage. We started a social drip campaign. Amy Bingham DeCesare in communications and marketing does View from the Hill, which airs on local television and also goes to 10 radio stations across the Commonwealth, talking about living, learning communities and retention success. We started a paid campaign targeting prospective students and their families to remind them about what an LLC is. We held an event, the first year dedication event on February 23rd, which also picked up media attention along the way. And all of this is driving toward and supporting the work that the Office of Admissions is doing in talking through and reminding of the upcoming housing and residence life deadline and the LLC deadline. So I'll turn things over to AVP Hales to talk through some of our key messaging and ways to stay connected.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. I'm Andrea Hales, Assistant Vice President for Strategic Communications and Media Relations. As John Mark shared with you, we collaborate frequently on university communication campaigns, like the one that we just walked through here on our most recent retention gains, which were terrific. He is passing out a couple of things right now. But if I could provide you with just one more tool as it pertains to this particular campaign. On the note card that he is working around the room here on, you will see the key messages that we use throughout the duration of the campaign through each of these steps. And really these served as the heart of each step along the way. And essentially there are three. Our fall to spring retention was the highest on record in the university's history. That was one. Two, those retention gains were across the board, from our low income and our first generation students to our underrepresented minority students. And then three, those students who participated in a living learning community in the fall semester persisted at a rate almost 6% higher than those who did not. So just another tool for your toolbox there. And then finally today, we want to make sure that we make it easy for you to engage in all WKU news across the university. So on the second page in front of you, we've made a list of some of those easy ways, some of those main ways to connect. You should already be receiving President Caboni and Provost Fisher's bi-weekly email messages that are sent to our faculty and staff. You should now also be receiving the Today at WKU newsletter that we send out every Tuesday and Thursday during the academic year and once a week during the summer. And also our View from the Hill that John Mark referenced, our weekly video report that airs every Thursday. Additionally, as we create and submit our quarterly newsletter to CPE, we'll get that in your hands as well. But now on the right side of the page, social media. If you go to the website listed here, you can sift through the 156 institutional social media channels that we have. And you are likely following some, if not many of those channels already to get much of the news across the institution. But if not, we have listed a few here that we think would be a good starting off point to engage in that way. And so with that, Beth, if you don't mind, I will get these handouts to you electronically as well, so we can get those to the board and for Linda who's not here today. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer those at this time.
Questions? Go ahead.
I have a comment, no question. First, really impressive. Glad to see this done. Being someone who's also in higher education, my provost mentioned to me the other day that said, any college or university that doesn't understand its business as a college versus a college that does business is going to fail. And this is an example of us recognizing that we better understand that there's a business of recruiting students and retaining students and promoting what their university does. And thinking about it from the concept of how businesses do this. This is not moving away from hiring. No one on hiring competition is. It's how we tell the story and get people to come here and participate, and then that we can actually give that value to them. So I commend you for doing it. And it's, again, recognition that we're going to survive for the future because we recognize that the game is changing. We've got to change with it. So good job.
And in the same vein, I see the correlation between what's happening in healthcare, where that's becoming more personalized. Genetics is playing a big role in that, but that's really what you're doing, collecting all that data. In a way, you're looking at the genetic background and utilizing that information. And as George alludes to, we all know the cliff is like 2-3 years away. Students weren't born, so if we weren't doing things like this, I shudder to think where we might be. So kudos for shifting the paradigm and being on the edge of recreating how we do business.
So a question or two. A few years ago, and more than a few years ago now, but anyway, at one point I started another social media department and then was getting invited to some marketing meetings on campuses of coordination. And of course, I just was like, hey, we need to have a Twitter and a Facebook, and we did. And the next thing I know, I'm getting roped into marketing, which was not my thing. But I just was an early adopter of social media. That's how it happened. I'm just curious now, as we have colleges being encouraged to, I don't want to say do their own thing, but take responsibility for their own areas is perhaps a better way of saying it. I'm seeing various colleges taking on marketing roles within that college. At the coordination across the university messaging and the college messaging and how that's going to work. What's your idea here?
Great question. So Shane, a couple of years ago, I think it was November of 2019, we created what we call the Communications Cabinet. That cabinet consists of those marketing and communication colleagues across the university. In each of our colleges, each of our divisions, our units, HRL, advising, housing, it's all across the institution. And so we did that for that reason, so that we could bring that group together. And at that point in time, we also created the strategic communications calendar. We create this each semester, as it's different each semester, with those monthly themes. But then along the left side here, we can send this out too, it ties into our strategic plan. And so every month when we meet with those colleagues, we walk through this calendar, and then we share from a higher level what's coming up, what we're working on. But then as importantly, we go around the table, there's 22 on that committee, and we understand what they're working on within their colleges and their units and their departments. And then how can we help? How can we share best practices? Those kinds of things. So hope that answers your questions. And when you look at the 156 social channels, those are because they're across the university, high level, low level programs, departments. Big Red has its own channel now. So, you know, there's a reason that there's that many.
Share.
I have, I guess, a question and a comment. There's so much out in the public now about everyone doesn't need to go to college, which I realize is true, but about this workforce development, and that's not, there's a lot here in Alumni, it's kind of all over, and about the need for all these jobs that are open and need to be filled. How do you how do you address that? And I think this looks like a good plan, but those people are really, a lot of students, high schools and all of that are being targeted to fill those jobs that are unfilled right now with industry. And certainly we have tons of industry here in Warren County, and I'm not negative, but that's great, but it's just, there's just a lot of, and I just recently was at a chamber meeting where this was a big discussion, so it's kind of on my mind how we combat that.
Well, it's one of the, you're exactly right, it is a challenge. During the pandemic, we thought that there might be a gap year or that students might just take a year off. Nationally, fewer than 2% of students actually went back to college as things started opening back up from the pandemic. And one of the reasons is that starting wages in some positions have raised 15% in the past year. So it makes it more appealing. But what we have to do is we have to pivot our messaging and talk about the long-term benefits of higher education. Higher education is still the best investment that a 17-year-old can make. It has the power not just to transform their income, but to transform their future generations. So we've had to back our messaging up and talk a little bit more at that top of the funnel about the value of higher education and why that a college degree is worth it. And it's an education campaign for our prospective students as well as their families to not just look at the starting wages of that first position when a student graduates high school, but look at that lifetime earning potential and that extra $1 million, according to US Census figures, that an individual will earn if they have a college degree when they enter the workforce.
And that certainly is true. I guess the best way to get that message out is through as much contact as you can have. And I'm sure it is a challenge, but I appreciate you.
It is. That's not something that easily fits onto a billboard or a digital ad campaign, but the admissions staff and the recruiters in the Division of Enrollment and Student Experience, that's a big part of the messaging that they take out on the road. the conversations that they need to have with families so that they understand the value for the long term.
Well, just to follow up on that, I think I've shared with this group that I teach a capstone class in the College of Business. One of the great joys in that is that they walk in and they talk about their job interviews and then the jobs that they're getting. So when you have a student come in and they're getting a starting salary at $60,000 or $70,000, and they're reflecting it, oh my God, that's that much, the kind of money they're getting, those individual success stories. I've talked in my own department how it's like, recruiting sometimes in college football recruiting, they send a little tweet up whenever someone, raised the flag or something, someone commits to a school. It's like, I feel like we should be raising the flag and shouting for joy for these individual successes. Not just, how do we show these people so they can see I'm like that person. They're from my county and now they are making how much to start? And that, your initial job, how it affects your lifetime earning, how much you're making that first one. And so it just, I don't know, those individual stories of success that we're seeing right now are so profound. And how do we get that message out? It's just.
Sure. If you watch the news channel, that we're adding more profiles and success stories to our outreach, because it is an incredibly powerful thing to see someone from your hometown or see someone with your area of interest who's been successful. It also means deepening our partnerships with the Alumni Association, the Division of Philanthropy and Alumni Engagement, to better tell those stories of individuals who have graduated from WKU and had tremendous success, and bring them together, whether it's through an ambassador program where current students or prospective students are guided along by alumni of the university, or whether it's just the fact that we need to post more and increase the number of profiles and graduate, current student, and alumni profiles.
President Tony?
Chair, most of you know that my role before I came to Western Kentucky was Vice Chancellor of the University. And what you saw today is state-of-the-art higher education, communication, and marketing. The partnership with sub-brands and sub-units is outstanding and something that we've been working on for 3 years. But I would tell you, there are very few institutions in this nation that have both the brand strength, the commonality of message, the integration of data at the top of the funnel, and the collaboration across all of the different units. We have made tremendous strides. We have a strong platform to build from. But what you see here is elegant, it is efficient, it's effective, and it's something that is invisible to most folks at the institution. And so I'm thankful for a spotlight to be shown on the work that this division does, but also for our institution to be proud that when you look across the Commonwealth, when you look across the nation, this is state of the art that we built here, and we should be proud of it.
And then most importantly, when they get here, we introduce them to a world-class faculty like yourself today, who delivers the goods. That's when retention rates go up further. Well, thank you all. Very nice presentation. President Boney, you're next on the list.
I am. Regent Bale, Chair Bale, thank you. On occasion, I will, at least at our quarterly meetings, provide a bit of an update on what's been going on. And I've had lots of interesting things since our last quarterly meeting, not the least of which was a tornado that came through campus. We'll not reflect upon that today. Other great things have happened that I want to bring to your attention, including our photojournalism students. We've had 3 students finish in the top 10 of the multimedia competition of Hearst this year. We're in 4th place in the photojournalism competition after the first 2 contests, and we're in 3rd place in the multimedia competition after the first of 4 contests. So our world-class journalism and photojournalism programs continue to compete and win at a high level. Our Kentucky Folk Life program received the National Endowment for the Arts grant to support their outreach work, and we're very proud of Folk Studies and Anthropology, a hallmark program for the university, and they're going to work to expand our Kentucky Folk Life network here in the Commonwealth. You may have seen that CPE certified the Cultural Competency Program at WKU, the first of its kind in the Commonwealth and a model for all of our other institutions. This is a certification process that will essentially help prepare our faculty to be more inclusive teachers. And it's a 4-month program and professional development opportunity for all faculty that really focuses on deepening the knowledge of inclusive and culturally responsive teaching, as well as creating opportunities for them to apply evidence-based diversity, equity, inclusion principles to their course design and to their pedagogy. I'm really proud of 19 WKU students who earned Gilman scholarships for study abroad. 95% of those young people who applied for a scholarship received one. And this application cycle, we did remarkably well. Proud of these folks to be able to go abroad for internships. It's particularly targeted to undergraduate health students. So very proud that this helps create opportunities that otherwise would not exist for these young people. WKU's online bachelor's programs ranked the highest in Kentucky and are among the top 35 in the nation. US News and World Report ranked WKU's online bachelor's programs as the best in the state. They're based on our program's engagement, services, technology, faculty credentials, and training. We also received rankings in best online bachelor's programs for veterans, best online master's in education for veterans, best online bachelor's in business programs, best online MBA programs for veterans, best online MBA programs, and best online master's in education. For those of you who are not aware, we offer over 80 online degree programs, including certificate, bachelor's, and master's degree programs. Our Doctor of Physical Therapy program was reaccredited and reaffirmed. We do this every 10 years, and that successful outcome is really important for the program and their ability not just to function, but to attract students. We're really proud that they have done this, and their first class was in the fall of 2013. So have made great progress since the inception of the program. We selected 17 students for our Cherry Presidential Scholarship. I had a tremendous group of young people to interview, and I'm proud that they will be hopefully coming to the Hill this fall. That scholarship is our most prestigious award, as you know, and comes with a $16,000 annual support and is worth over $64,000 over a 4-year period. A couple of other good things to announce. You will hear later this morning, you've heard a little bit of a nudge toward it, our tremendous fall to spring retention gains. I'm very proud of the work that we've done and how the First Year Village has influenced those. Our WKU forensics team, I'll end on this note and a couple of other scholarships. They won the 2022 state championship. That is the 30th consecutive year that WKU Forensics has won the state championship for the Kentucky Forensics Association. In the 13 speech categories, WKU students captured all 13 state titles. So an impressive performance by them. We had 12 students selected as semifinalists for the critical language scholarships, working to create cultural immersion and language acquisition overseas. And we've had 9 WKU students selected as Fulbright scholarship semifinalists. Truly an outstanding several months on the Hill with lots of performance and successes. I'm thankful for the work of the entire community, our faculty and staff, that even in the midst of challenges from a pandemic, a tornado, and any other things that we might face, that we've been able to continue our upward trajectory. I will end my president's report with a note or a notice and a comment that will lead into Chair Bale's next agenda item. And you'll note, we all will note that we have one person who's not here with us in the meeting today, and that's our parliamentarian, Randy Capps. And many of you know that I had an important special relationship with Dr. Capps. He is the reason that I came here in 1993, and he was a special force on the Hill. He advised my 5 predecessors as president and me. He was a tremendous mentor, not just of me, but of former students who kept in touch with them over their lives and throughout their careers. He exemplifies what we do at this university, which is change individual lives, but do it through relationships. And I will miss Randy's good counsel. I will miss his ability to challenge and ask hard questions, but never give direction. It was a tremendous loss for our community and for our board, and prayers to his family.
Well, that does lead into the last item, and I want to enter into our minutes and record. Representative Patty Minter did get a citation of adjournment in honor of Dr. Capps. I won't read this, but it summarizes many of the things that he accomplished throughout his career, both at Western Kentucky University and otherwise. I think Dr. Capps certainly had influence on probably the large majority of the people in this room right now. And one thing that was really clear at his funeral and reception afterwards was that Randy had a gift in recognizing the potential in other people. And he had a way of inspiring those people to pursue that potential. And there are many, many success stories, including several presidents of universities, as well as other highly successful people in the professional world and otherwise. And that really came clear at his funeral, how many people he influenced in that way. One of my favorite quotes, and it's attributed to various people, so I'm not sure who was original. Dr. Samuel Johnson's one of them, but the applause of a single human being is of great consequence. And Randy did that, and he may not have been clapping his hands, but it was the nod of the head, the smile. And we will all miss that. And I think in honor of him, one of the things we can do is continue to see the potential in this university, which he clearly saw that too, and work hard to achieve that. With that, I'm looking forward for any other comments. Anyone in the audience? Hard guy to lose. I've been informed we have a technical issue, and we're going to take a brief break before we come back to affairs. find their seats.
We've enjoyed
this area. I would have been.
Oh, yeah.
we saw one.
Surely,
Stop it.
surely. Okay, we will, Phil. Please chair.
So maybe we won't.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting on the Chair of the Student Affairs Committee to rejoin us, a point of information and introduction, as we just discussed, Dr. Capps has created a vacancy, his passing created a vacancy in our parliamentarian position. And we have asked Andrea Anderson, who serves as general counsel of the university, to fill those big shoes. And Andrea has been with us as a tremendous leader, and this really moves us forward what most other institutions in the Commonwealth do, having their general counsel also serve as parliamentarian. So I wanted to take just a brief moment and welcome Andrea. She is official, so much to the point that she even has a nameplate. Thank you, Jeff Younglove, for making that happen after I think I made the offer on Wednesday. So that's some amazing work. Andrea, anything to share with the group? Surprise, put you on the spot.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have shoes to fill.
Happy to have you in that role. All right, with that, we will turn things over to Regent Henson and the Student Affairs.
Thank you, Chair Bell. We have two information items to go over. The first one is retention and living and learning communities. Dr. Logan, I'll let you take it over.
Thank you, Regent Henson. Thank you to the board, Dr. Caboni. This is a part of the master plan of communication. See how we talked about persistence and persistence rates. Now I'll give you the background and the backbone of that in combination. And this is a brief information just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like and what that means to the institution. I get to speak about it today in terms of student persistence and retention, but it is not a student affairs item. It's an institutional comprehensive expression of all of our work collectively that makes this work. It's not just the work that we do in LLCs. It's also the work faculty are doing. It's the academic support, and it's the engagement that culminates in this experience. And so I'm really pleased just to kind of highlight that information for you. This is the institutional research reports that we get on the weeks looking at persistence going forward. And so I wanted to share this with you just to talk about those numbers in total. That's the number which we're talking about in terms of persistence. And if you look at that across this last 4 years, that's the institutional brag point right there. We have reached a persistence point at 90.9% there for our students who are enrolled in the spring. I'm sorry, who were enrolled in the fall and continued into the spring. The next piece will be the measure of retention. That's the fall to fall number, but this is a piece, the leading indicator of both the success and the engagement of students and the likelihood of their retention going forward. The other comment that was made was, if you look at this disaggregated across some of our specific populations of students, we work closely with our underrepresented minority students, first generation and low income. You can see that that was true in terms of how we look at this is a 5-year high also for these subgroups of students and the way that they performed. And really, I would really highlight this piece here, 90.3, in terms of what our underrepresented minority students persist in terms of the grand population of students as a whole. That's a fantastic metric in terms of performance by our underrepresented students who have typically, like our first generation students and low income students, have had obstacles to their approach to education and have had to overcome more adversity in their experience. So to see those almost completely even in terms of the persistence and the value, that's a wonderful statement. Yes, sir.
Ethan, if I may, one of the things I want to call your attention to, there have been in some public forums concern about the enrollment of students of color at Western Kentucky University. And these numbers demonstrate what we've been working toward. Access without success is access to nothing. And we have focused like a laser on making sure we were shaping the incoming class in such a way that every student that we admitted had a reasonable chance of graduating with a degree. And so on the first line under underrepresented minority disaggregated data, I want to take you all the way back to the fall of 2017. In that fall, we admitted 510 students. And then in the spring, we retained, my eyeballs work, 409 or 80.2% of those folks. And so you would say, well, in the fall of 2021, we only admitted 474 students. But if you look at on the right-hand column, but if you look at the number of underrepresented minority students in the spring, yes, the entering class was about 35 students smaller than in the fall of 2017. But because they persisted at a 90% percentage rate, we had 428 underrepresented minority students, 20 or so more than in the spring of 18. So what we're doing is becoming more efficient with our throughput. That means we can focus more resources on a smaller number of students and create more success. And so I will tell you, closing the persistence and retention gap between our majority students and our underrepresented minority students, that we've closed that to 0.7 percentage point is unheard of nationally. And that we've managed to do that 10 percentage points during the course of just 4 years also is a national story. This is tremendous performance, and I wanted to call it out and thank everyone who's been involved in this. Dr. Sales, the work that you've done with the ISAC, Pride Center, the work that we've done in housing, residence life, and academic affairs. This is a whole of institution effort to wrap our arms around young people who need some additional help, additional support to get them across that finish line. But I'm really proud of that effort. It's tremendous.
Thank you, sir. This is similar information. This just provides another variation on the theme of, as we look at separate groups of students, specifically underrepresented minority students, low-income, first-generation college students. Those are overlapping populations. There are students, obviously, who are both underrepresented and of low income and could be first generation. So this is a variation of that distribution of students to look at those overlaps and to look at performance there. You can see that those numbers, which are highlighted in that first report, are specific. So you see, if you want, I will let you take it before I try to draw lines through that pattern. I'm happy to let you digest that for a minute. Any questions or comments on that? This information, and I'm sorry that these numbers are small, and I hope that, and I'm happy to share this information with you separately, but this information here is really to highlight the performance of what we did and what we've seen in our first term of our new LLC program at the institution. Trying to evaluate the impact that has on student life. We had a lot of faith, we had a lot of practice, we had a lot of preparation in terms of what that could be, what that should be, and how we're going to implement learning communities here on campus. And this persistence rate aggregation by students who participated in the program stands to reason that this is a successful venture, and we have great opportunity for the growth and development of this program going forward. So if we look at the institutional performance of retention at 90.9%, we broke that down by LLC. So those students who are living in the academic and the themed living learning communities are total together, or achieved that. All of those LLCs achieved a 95.4% retention rate. And that's what contributed also to this comprehensive performance of retention across the institution. This reads not in any LLC. This is the remainder of the institution's enrollment. So that's first year, second year, third year, fourth year. But it's this is a highlight of what this LLC experience demonstrated in terms of students' performance and engagement in the institution. That's a great testament to what this program is and what's going to continue to be as we continue to grow and develop and refine this program. So that's a great barometer in terms of what the program looks like.
It's a wonderful participation.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I guess the reason I had no comments about what Dr. Caboni said was to speak for itself. It's pretty impressive. When you look at the learnings, though, what jumped out that we learned, it was like, wow, this is an aha moment for us. Now we build on it.
Well, besides that persistence piece, which is truly, it's demonstrative. The other things that we see were the feedback, the qualitative experiences and feedback that we're getting from the students about their participation, about the creativity and the expansion of what this program is. So this is a wonderful partnership with the academic division in terms of their faculty fellows who are investing in these programs, in terms of serving as mentors for these LLCs. And what we're seeing is they're starting to enrich those experiences with students. Our nursing program has got a wonderful example of some work that they've been doing, especially in outreach with the Salvation Army. As a floor, as a pod of the learning community, they're engaged in their curriculum, they're engaged in their learning, but they're also looking at their component of service that is a part of that profession and an expression of that together. They've gone out to the Salvation Army and we're spending time with them. We're seeing the specific groups, new teachers in terms of some of the teaching community meeting together. I mean, bringing the LLC of the teaching pod together to talk to new teachers, first-year teachers who just got out of the program, just got out of school, talking about their experience firsthand, sharing that time together with food and fellowship, but also learning. And so it's a wonderful extrapolation of what is the pedagogical experience combined with the philosophy of engaged students persist and retain at a greater level. It's a wonderful demonstration.
If I could add, I think some of the other things that were really interesting to me was the interest in students who participated in academic LLCs being engaged in social activities that were separate from their academic work, meaning we just want to go to a baseball game together to see the hot rods, or go bowling together, or do the ropes course together. So creating connections and deepening relationships among a group of academically oriented students, but in a social way. So it's really Vince Tinto, who really talks about retention in the higher education literature. It's really about academic integration and social integration. If you can nail both of those, your retention rates will continue to go up. First intervention, second intervention in his model. So all of this is grounded theoretically in the higher education literature. We knew it was going to work because every place it's done it, it's worked. But at this level, I think we have a lot to be proud of. The other thing to think about when you look at these data is if you look at the students who are not in an LLC and they're coming back at an 86.1% rate. That's in first generation. All of them on the left is 89.4, still close to 90%, but a good 5-6 point difference. There is selection bias. So these individuals who are choosing to be part of an LLC are self-selecting into that program. By the nature of that selection, it says something about those students that might be different than those who don't want to participate in an LLC. So as we combine this, which is programmatically a transformation of the first year experience, and continue to grow it with our marketing efforts and connecting those data that we have on prospective students to the academic experience. And as we have shaped the incoming class with financial aid offerings, particularly above 3.0, no matter your family's income, what you see is a class of entering students that's going to allow us to get to that 80-60 point, because it's fundamentally different. The students are self-selecting into an LLC because of their background and their interest. And if we make that a hallmark of the program, they are more likely to be successful, not just in year one, but through year 4. And so what we have to do is identify figure out for the folks who don't self-select in, what do they need? And then how do you get more folks to self-select in because you wrap that around them? And that's next year.
Yes.
Okay.
This is really exciting stuff. I mean, and it's an exciting time to be in higher education when you understand what neuroscience is offering now in terms of pedagogy and how we learn, and you throw in the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, which is a big part of all this. And we're just scratching the surface right now of what we might be able to realize. This is real. It's there for the taking. And can't do it all at once, but we're certainly making progress where we can and should be.
And I will add this. This goes back to the historic building of higher education, the notion that the Oxford and Cambridge model of university colleges and putting faculty together with students is how you create deep learning and student success. What we're doing is creating a high quality, tremendous experience for these first year students at a value at WKU of $10,000 a year. You don't even get this kind of engagement in your residence hall at Vanderbilt. You get one faculty head of house to 250 to 300 students. We're talking about one faculty member that has deep engagement and a commitment to those young people. It's 24 students. That's incredible. And that we're able to do it at this price point, that kind of excellence is a tremendous value. Just something to be so proud of as an institution.
What is our max capacity for the living learning communities? We've got 650 that are in there currently.
I have a housing professional here, I hope, who can take that question for me.
Our goal has always been to engage as many students that have interest in a living learning community in one of those very important programs. So the answer to your question is infinite. As many students as we can serve, we want to serve. And so it's a matter of taking those LLC experiences and scaling them up so we can serve every incoming student and provide them with this transformational experience.
What's interesting for me is the conversations that we have with students who don't want to be in an LLC. And we had to have some data to be able to engage in this conversation. There are some folks who say, you know what, I just want to come and be anonymous and have a college experience where I can go to class and maybe go to a job, maybe have some parties, and nobody really knows my name. I want to not be known. From my perspective, what we want to do is help convince those young people and their families that actually you do want to be known. And if we're going to admit 3,000 first-year students, if we can get every one of them anchored in some way through an LLC, through a Greek organization, through athletics, through the honors college, any way we can put a tether on them, we're more likely to be successful. But I would argue, again, that connection between academics and social integrating together is where we're going to get it. And so from my mind, every student should be part of an LLC if we can get there. It's a long on-ramp.
So this partnership with academics and housing. I've talked to a number of faculty who are working with this, and they've all enjoyed it this year. But what I've also heard is there's a different amount of support from some of the faculty, from some of the colleges. Some have more support to do it than others do. And I'm just curious if we're gauging the retention rate amongst faculty as we move forward with this, what their experience is like. And to continue this on, are we going to be recruiting new faculty to go on and keeping these old relationships, or what the thought is there?
Well, Bud, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you wanted me to take that.
I would.
People go, I would think there's about 95% are coming back from what we've talked to up to this point. And they are excited, but they have some things that they need to work on. And, you asked a great question, Representative Nichols, because the question they said is they were struggling with themes versus the academic one. And they took a look at that, and what the students in the themes told them is that they didn't feel as connected because they weren't taking a class in their major. So they asked for a change, and they're going to do that change into the next year so that the students get that better connection. So it's about a 95. And yeah, I've talked with Marco a significant amount about expanding it, because I think we need to expand it. I totally agree with the president in that this is a great opportunity for us to create that connection that has to be created. And it's even better connection because I think of it as perfect teaching, right? It's almost one-on-one teaching from the time you walk in the door. And Marco and I, and so he's out recruiting now, trying to find more faculty to be a part of this. And we're hoping to get as many as possible as we come into this next year. But they're tweaking stuff daily or hourly in some cases, trying to make the best opportunities and the best experience for the students. Thank you. Thank you.
I will end it with this. That was a 5th week report. So that was an analysis of where we were with persistence for 5th week. And it chose that specific report, which is I think a week old now, because it was at the time of 5th week check-in. And so when we talk about the engagement and the academic combination that resonates and what it does for LIFT, we also look at how can we continue to expand on our student success. So students who are not persisting at that level follow into our 5th week check-in program for our students, especially our 100 and 200 level students, where those are classes are asked to provide feedback on students in terms of grades and attendance. And we're purposefully trying to reach out to those students through a variety of means with academic advising, with faculty in colleges, and with residence life staff to try to make sure that we connect with each one of those students who may be in academic duress at that period of time, while there's still time to try to remedy that situation, support, engagement, attention, tutoring, etc. So the combination of what we set up with the students in the LLCs contributes so much to our success and persistence. But we have to also make sure that we have safety nets to catch those students who are struggling. And we'll work on those to continue to bolster those numbers so we can see the advancement of that going forward. That's the end of that slideshow. Any questions?
Do you have another slideshow?
I have another. I am fortunately lucky enough to be the person who gets to present the next group to this austere body, and then I get to get out of the way, because this is, though I am a freelance string player, I am not not one who gets called to New York, and I definitely have a lot of spirit, but I don't know if I can.
Hopefully you meant august instead of austere.
So August, yes, thank you.
That's right, because we're getting ready to have one.
So I feel like just in the meetings I've been in the last month or so, is with budget meetings and other things, concerns.
Yes, sir.
And the strategic priority of missions and what's going on. And just could you give us, what could you share about how things are going on next year's group? I know it's in process.
I'm happy to, I can always talk about next year's process. I'm sorry, I don't have the slides to show you on that. So let me tell you a little bit about our story. What we're seeing in terms of the participation and performance in our enrollment cycle for this fall 22 class. It's very similar to what we saw in 21 in terms of performance. We have better access this year than we did in 21, but it's been later in the cycle, but we're getting there. We're getting more penetration in our market. And what I mean by that is we're having access, one-on-one conversations, getting into high schools and engaging with students and counselors. We have a good reputation with our counselors in our territories. It's just been an access piece that has been district by district in terms of safety considerations and preferences. Where we are in terms of our volume of applications is up about, we're sitting at about 90% of what our optimal application pattern was in terms of our volume that we wanted to try to hit. We're sitting at about 86% in terms of those applications of students who were admitted. I've got about 1,000 students in there who are yet to be admitted simply because they're incomplete in the sense that they haven't completed a function of that step for true admission. That's as simple as not just to have an application in, we know that, but they may not have provided a transcript, or they may not have paid an application fee. Those are easily remedied. They just are a checklist to continue. So we have a lot of opportunity there, and we're in the third phase of this approach, which is the yield phase of where we are with students, which begins truly in March. March is a transition from application cultivation to the yield process of the admitted student population. So we're really moving into that in terms of aggressively pushing our yield campaign. And that's going to be measured in terms of how we look at performance, participation, top orientation. It's a factor of orientation, participation, HRL, reservations, and pieces that we can say are demonstrated commitment steps towards enrollment. And we have great support and continuation and engagement and interest from our colleges in terms of supporting that yield campaign. We have a very strong yield program at this institution. We perform above what I consider a national standard in terms of our yield and our melt prevention, in terms of where we are. So I feel really comfortable the way that we're going into this period. Our growth opportunity and our enrollment target potential is going to be our orientation, cultivation, and making sure we get these students engaged, registered, and connected to this institution. The onboarding of the support that the colleges are providing in this conversation is going to enhance that. And I really feel like what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a very strong yield process. But it does take us down to the wire, which makes me very anxious and provokes a lot of need for my blood pressure medicine. But nonetheless, I persist, and I'm very excited about what we're going to be able to do. And it's a wonderful thing. I talk about enrollment management as an art, because if you were to put science on it, you could say it would be quantifiable, and it's elusive in terms of quantifying activity. It's more of a game of spinning plates, and it takes a lot of people working in concert to make it work. The opportunities that we provoke with our communications and marketing is exceptional. We talked about that and we said, this is a professional level. This is the highest standard. I have worked at larger institutions with less capable and less efficient marketing strategies and opportunities. So we work those together, and the engagement that the colleges are providing in terms of feedback to provide a wonderful choreography of the institution's outreach, followed by moments of interspersed college specific targeted students by discipline, by interest, is going to be a really beautiful system as it evolves. And I have great confidence that we're just going to continue to get better and better about it. So where we are right now, we have what I would say a conservative goal of 29,000 students coming in this fall, coming up from our 28 we had last year. And we're on track right now to hit that potential.
2,900. I mean, 29,000, we'd have a bed problem.
But thank you.
Well, just as a follow-up, as y'all might know, I'm on campus, and so a lot of people reach out to me and they complain about various things at times, and it's always, we don't have enough resources in my area. And I hear that from faculty, department chairs, deans, others. And I try to look at what I consider to be mission critical. And when I look at our strategic plan, I look at the budget process that's ongoing. So much of it falls into your area: the admissions, the retention, the advising, the experience that Dr. Pavoni was talking about comes from your staff. And so when I look across the holistic thing of what we're trying to do, we need to make sure that you have the resources you need in order to do your job. And that's the question. Do you have the resources you need to be successful in all these components?
You bet. I do. I have this institution's support and commitment, not just in resources, but in partnerships and support. So yeah, I think we do.
If I could add on to that, because I want to draw a thread for you to other strategic decisions we've made as an institution. And so what you're seeing are tremendous partnerships between and among the provost office, particularly the deans and the 5 colleges, and recruitment, admissions, and enrollment. But what is that connected to? I mean, Regis Bill, you're right. Everything we do is enrollment centric, because that's what drives the largest portion of our budget. But when you have a new budget model that incentivizes college leadership to say, for me to do better, I need to have more students studying what we teach, that creates and deepens the partnership. It creates an urgency, not just from the center or from the president, but it creates an urgency from a dean, because the dean knows, if I want to shift the budget that I have upward, then I have to recruit more students, enroll more students, and then retain more students. And there's a reward for that built into the system that in a different system that's centralized may not exist. So I may get all these new students, but why is that money going over here? And so I think that as we, again, mature in a decentralized budget model, what you're going to see is the relationship between reward structures, doing things that we need to do as an institution, working in concert with each other. And I want to thank the deans. They have been miraculous in what they've done this year. The urgency that they've created, the focus on this has been outstanding, and then the partnership. And so I do want to recognize that effort publicly. It's been just terrific. And the partnership between Provost's office and enrollment has been great as well.
Truly, truly. That the collegiality of our existence amongst these divisions and the deans is exceptional.
Does anyone have any more questions for Dr. Logan before we?
Can I ask one? And I want to say I appreciate, especially as a communications person, what I've seen in terms of the integration and the plan mapping and the collaborative work with the deans and the new provost. I think it's outstanding. I think that's for what I know, it's the right approach, right? And I'm glad to hear that you have the resources, because I know that was a push, and we've been looking at that in the back end. But the part that I'm most curious about, just as an information answer, is do you have the staff? And where are you on admissions staff? Do you feel like you have enough people right now to do the work that's needed? And are we able to recruit those people and retain them as employees?
That's a great question. And I think that we are moving in that direction to have both a fulfillment of a solid staff and the ability to recruit those. That's a part of my conversation with the institution to represent enrollment to our budget process this year, definitely. We've been challenged by competitiveness. It's a very competitive market especially for counselor outreach, because institutions subtly try to one up each other. And that's okay. You know, the winner is always the student in this process to be enrolled. But of course, we have our particular needs that we would like to see fulfilled as well in terms of enrollment. So we're always trying to find a way to provide nuance that is going to provoke, this is the greatest opportunity for employment. Part of that's competitiveness of compensation, but it's really going to be also a combination of how we provide for those those professionals to do their work, and to really provoke the sense of what we can provide in terms of professional development.
And I know that that's a focus of the university moving forward, and we've seen great results of that so far. And I appreciate your time, Dr. Love.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Matt, you have a question?
I did, yes. I just wanted to, go off what Regents just said. I think speaking of our engagement with the colleges and the students in those colleges, I know advising is an issue that a lot of my peers have had issues with. And so I know that it plays a critical role in ensuring that our retention rates are where they need to be. So what steps are we taking towards ensuring that our students are getting to meet with those faculty members? Because I know a lot of them are overwhelmed and they don't necessarily get the direction they feel that they need to graduate in 4 years and get to where they need to be.
In terms of advising,
like responsiveness and
Okay.
just sitting down with those professors. And make that happen.
well, that's a wonderful question, Matt, in terms of that engagement with faculty and meeting with students. And I would let the provost respond.
Great toss.
You might get that one. I will tell you two things. We were approached by your group to have a conversation about evaluations, and that conversation went on with the Faculty Senate, which is the group that takes care of evaluations. What would be any type of that evaluations of their people, and they came to a conclusion, and supposedly they told me the other day, because I asked this question, they sent it back to you guys for some comments. So there's where we are with getting evaluations put in. So it's back in your guys' court. Two is the deans have been told to tell their faculty to be more receptive to students and to make sure that they're ready for those evaluation periods, because you have to be. I mean, that's incredibly important. I agree totally with you, Matt, that if you're not, you're going to fail miserably in this. And people need to know where they're going, and people need to know the path that's going to allow them to get to the end. And I will say for this generation, usually as quick as possible in a large number of cases. So that's where we are at this point. Now, I don't know what that model looks like into the future, but right now that's the model we're working on, and that's how we're trying to take care of it.
And if I could go a little bit further about what we should take a look at, right? So if you look at success on our campus, Gordon Ford College of Business has professional advisors, not just for years 1 and 2. They continue that in years 3 and 4. And so if you look comparatively at their engagement and retention versus those that have only faculty, not supported by professional advisors. What does that look like? And so I think there is a conversation to be had around if you're relying upon faculty to provide course-taking advice, is that the best use of a faculty member's time? Or is it the professional academic advising about what your aspirations are and how do you do better in the classroom? And for the technical course-taking information so that it is very accurate and gets folks to graduation, is a way of thinking about the first 2 years of advising being done by professional advisors centrally, but you have a decentralized model within each college where juniors and seniors receive that kind of specialized advising by professional staff. And then you layer upon them faculty who give not necessarily course-taking advice, but life advice, professional advice, academic advice. So I think that that will be the conversation that we have in coming years. Did I just set the ground for that?
You knew what I wanted.
I was just gonna say, and the career counselors that we have as well.
Yes.
I mean, we talk to the parents when they come in, they're like, well, what kind of jobs are out there? How do we do this? And we start working that very early, the importance of that, and having them meet with them. Again, a successful model in the college business.
And I think business, if you think about degree programs that are tightly coupled professions, you see in the business school, I want to do marketing. Well, I'm going to study marketing, and I'm going to go do marketing. If you think about in the College of Education, behavioral sciences, I want to be a teacher. There's someone who helps work through my accreditation to be a teacher and then connects me directly to a teaching position. Same thing is true in engineering. I have to be certified. I work through this and I move directly into a profession. Where it becomes more difficult are those loosely coupled degree programs, particularly liberal arts and sciences, and some of the softer, less tightly coupled degrees. And so I think we have work to do there as well.
We have a good engagement though through ACDC in terms of how we do academic advising in lockstep with career counseling and try to integrate that early in the beginning of the conversation instead of like when I chose to engage career counseling as a senior in my second semester. It's a better opportunity. So for those situations that are loosely coupled like that, we're trying to get them engaged early to start careers in association with degrees.
I appreciate you answering all the questions as I have these conversations across campus, and we have people leave. Regent Thomas talked about what's going on in industry. People have a lot of places to work now, so we have these vacancies that are occurring, and I'm just trying to look at those mission critical positions we need to fill, whether it's in ACDC or other places, and those ones that are working directly with students and leading to those retention rates. Just I want to make sure that
I think my parents asked me, now, what can you do with a degree in speech and rhetoric? I think my answer was, well, anything.
University president.
But we have to be able to give a more tightly defined answer.
Dr. Logan, are we ready to move
Oh.
to information item number 2?
If you'll indulge me in getting our key presenters.
And one of the young ladies. Yeah, one of the cheer squad is an Alumni.
Linda, it's nice to have you with us today.
Thank you. I hope to be there in person. I appreciate your patience with my remote attendance.
Well, you look great on the screen.
Well, I don't want to see what that even looks like, but thank you all.
Thank you, Regent Henson. This is our Spirit Squad complement of our national champions today that I would like to, I'm really pleased to be the Student Affairs Committee just to introduce this group. I have nothing to do with their program in the sense that they do wonderful things. But I'm very supportive, and we have done some really good things institutionally to help enhance this program. But it's all these folks right here. And
If I could add just a bit before you introduce Allie, we made a commitment 2 years ago to transform our cheer program. And Olivia will remember the conversation that I had with her about what we were producing and how that represented the institution's brand and how we might think a little differently about that. And we hired a cheer coach who departed us for that blue place up the street a little bit And I was unhappy because we had spent a great deal of time recruiting this person. And I told Olivia and Matt Morrison, you tell her she better find somebody as good, if not better than she is, to come here this fall. And she did. And so we quickly re-recruited a director of our cheer program and spirit squad program. And Allie Lumpkin joined us 2 years. This is our second competitive season, about 2 years ago, in the middle of a pandemic, and has really transformed what we're able to create on the field, but also in competition. And you may have noticed, to elevate the brand, an investment in a new set of look, feel, and talent. And so they are athletes first and foremost, students first and foremost, but these are young people are pure athletes, and I'm proud of what they produce. I'm proud of what you and Dalton have created, and Olivia, with your leadership. So with that, Ethan, anything else to add?
Allow me to introduce this group. First of all, Olivia, who's our Associate Athletic Director, who works with our Spirit Squads, Allie Lumpkin, who's our head coach, our assistant coach, Dalton Stanley, both in their second year here at WKU. And then our wonderful students who are with us today. That is Jaden Embry, Andrea Red Lenore, and then 2 members of our all-girl squad, which is Alicia Lambie and Abby Normal.
You may recognize Abby as our homecoming queen.
Yes, also a male pie.
Yeah.
I just gotta mention that.
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for having us and welcoming us to this meeting today. It's my honor and privilege to be here, and I can't wait to show you a little bit about our program and let you know the excellent work that's been put into myself and my athletes in order to bring the best to WKU. This year, we brought home our first small co-ed national title. Back in 2021, we brought home all girls first national title. So a very strong 2 years for both of our programs. We're very excited to see that and the growth. I'll just go ahead and quickly say that we had our first spring clinic of this semester just last weekend, and we had over 140 athletes in the building for that. So that was just unexpected, crazy. We had probably 120 of them that were pre-registered, and then just more flowed into the building from there. So we were super excited about all that talent there. I just wanted to start off just to refresh kind of this year, what happened at our college nationals. So we work all season long, starting in the summer when the team is made in May, and we will have a few practices over the summer, working on our game day. And then once we're here for the fall, we start really prepping for our nationals. And we prep all season, where we compete in January one time. We get one shot, and if it's good enough, we move on to the final round. So 2 performances really. So all of our hard work goes into 5 minutes of performance time there. So you can see some of the scores in our all-girl D1A division. Schools like the University of Alabama, Indiana University, the University of Mississippi, Mississippi State, Florida State, University of Alabama, Birmingham. Those are all just a few schools that compete in that division. And you can see how close our all-girl team was, right behind the University of Alabama, just a fraction of a point there. But then you can also see between 2nd and 3rd place, the big point gap that we had there. So we're right where we need to be, a little bit more polishing, and we're just going to step right over that 91.7 next year. That's the plan. For co-ed, same schools in that D1A division. We've got Florida State, University of Minnesota, Memphis, just a few, Bowling Green State, App State are all in those divisions. And you can see that our co-ed team absolutely dominated that division. And that was a really cool experience for us all. That was our plan, was to go down there and just really show them that our talent level and our skills and the way that we executed was just so far ahead of everyone else. And I think that we accomplished that this year. We also had, on our first night of competition in Orlando, we had 3 different partner stunt and group stunt couples that performed and competed. That is just a couple, a female and a male, that go and perform a routine. We had 2 of those. And then we had an all-girl group as well, go out there and perform a set of skills. And all 3 were able to come into the top 5 in their respective divisions. And those have anywhere from 10 to 15 different competitors in each of those divisions. So again, something very proud. I don't think that's the first time that WKU had couples represented in partner stunt, but I feel confident in saying that this is the best showing that we've had in those divisions. Just a little bit of kind of what our team is made up of. We've got athletes that represent 12 different states and even one country, well, 2 countries, including the US, but Alessia is actually from Canada. So this is her 4th year with us. So she'll be graduating. So it's really nice to see. We really want to start tapping into, the mid part of the United States and then onto the West Coast. So will tell you, we've got some people interested from Colorado and Texas this year coming to our program. So just expanding upon that. Lots of our athletes are involved in many different organizations throughout campus. You'll see SGA, we've got Greek Life. We even have athletes that represent the NPHC organizations as well. So we're excited about those. We have athletes coming in as transfers from junior colleges and also other major universities coming in and just looking at the experience here at Western, what the cheer program can give them, and then also coming to campus and seeing what WKU is really about. A lot of people that come and visit WKU, their first thought is, wow, it just feels like home. And I think that that is just a really cool thing for athletes, especially coming from out of state and coming from far away. We want them to feel at home here. They're going to spend a lot of time here. They don't get a lot of opportunity to go home throughout the season. So for them to feel at home here, I think is really important. I just want to give a little shout out to all of the investment that has been put into this program in the past 2 years since I've been here. The change and the welcoming of a full-time head coaching position has just really emphasized the ability for me to put in the time and the effort into giving these athletes my undivided attention at all times by being able to focus on them every day. I'm checking in on them in school, making sure that they're doing all that they're supposed to, making sure that we're getting involved in the community and on campus as well. Our athletes we introduced a scholarship program for them this past season. This is our first season with that. And all of our athletes are able to have their out-of-state fee waived, which is a huge difference maker. You don't see that in a lot of institutions across the country at all. And then each athlete will get $2,000 per academic year. And again, that's every athlete. And I just think that that's amazing that each athlete can benefit from a scholarship like that. I am confident in saying that this is the best scholarship program in the state of Kentucky as far as schools and universities go. And we are right there with being in all of institutions across the country, being up there with offering the best for our student athletes there. We also have 4 premier scholarships, which covers all of an athlete's tuition costs, which is really nice for us to really be able to kind of invest in some of our leaders that are on the team and really give them a little bit more and gives other athletes a chance to work towards something and to earn something even more in their future with WKU.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I'd like to add something. I want to put a little emphasis on the full-time head coaching position because I've been around the cheer program for a very long time. I've been a part of it when it was really at its lowest, and fortunately, I'm able to be a part of the highest accomplishments they've had thus far. But I want to explain because she does this. She doesn't give herself enough credit sometimes, but she's the head coach of 2 different programs. She's the head coach of an all-girl program and a co-ed program. That's 60 athletes. 60 athletes. That's that's right where our baseball team is, or that's above our baseball team in numbers. So she's sitting right below the football program of having the most athletes to be responsible for. And prior to investing in a full-time coaching position, we had 2 part-time people that had other lives. They had another full-time job that actually put food on their table. And this is what was their love. This was their hobby. And, they were able to give these athletes the attention that they deserve on a full experience for college. And so that experience or that investment was a complete game changer. She accomplished 1 national championship in the first year before we even implemented the scholarship program. And that was just because of the time she was able to invest on a full-time basis. So I like to put emphasis on that because she doesn't say that as much, but there's not a lot of other institutions if they have a co-ed program and an all-girl program that one coach is running both of those. So I've now experienced competition with them. I'm a football girl. I don't know a lot about cheer, but now I do. And their competition is unreal. And now that I've been able to experience it, she's in the back warming up with one group. She's going to another warm up to another group. And then she's getting in the front for when they compete. She's all over the place, but she says it all the time that I wouldn't want it any other way. But we were just sitting outside and Alessia was explaining about how her freshman and sophomore year, they were very separate. Co-ed was over here, all girl was over here. And now when they compete, if one of the other teams is in the audience ready to go, they don't feel comfortable performing. Like they are one unit, one program. And that's been the biggest growth, I think. And investing in one full-time head coach like really put that on another level. So I want to explain that because a lot of people don't know because I didn't know either. So I really just want to explain that that's a really big deal when comparing us to other institutions.
Yes, thank you. This is, let me make sure that this plays correctly. Okay, this is just our crowd video that we submit at the beginning of our competition before we go, and it shows the way that we're involved on campus, the way that we're involved in the community, and the things that we do on the sideline and things, and that is part of our score. So we've put together a few clips, and you'll see the alumni luncheon during homecoming, and this is at the Alzheimer's walk. And we just, these athletes, the great thing about having so many athletes is the ability to make sure that their presence is felt throughout the community. You know, they're able, with everybody gets the opportunity to go into the community and put their efforts out there and just be involved and find new organizations that ultimately leads them to networking post-college life. You know, they get to put a lot of these things on their resumes for grad school or whatever job opportunity that they're going for after. So I think that that's a really great part. I put a lot of emphasis on that to my athletes, is making sure that when we have these opportunities, you need to be volunteering for them, because you never know where your interest, you know, where your career path is going to lead you, and you never know what could enhance those opportunities for yourself in the future. We love being on the sidelines. I think that we've done a really good job the past couple of years. You know, last year was kind of hard because of COVID, and the stands were just so empty, and we were doing our best to be entertaining. You know, that's our job. We're supposed to be there to enhance the game day experience for the fans and for the athletes that are competing there. So this year was really fun to finally get those fans back in the stands, and to really, we're continuing to learn about the game day experience. We've implemented our Big Red Rally, which is at the very beginning of the football games. Right after Topper Walk, we'll go usually outside of the alumni tent, and we put together just a little performance, just something else to get people excited and get people to the game, before the game, and ultimately into the game, because it's fun. We want to be there and want the athletes to feel supported at all of their events. This year, this is our U.S. national team. We have a co-ed team and an all-girl team. I'm actually one of the assistant coaches for the co-ed team. This organization has been around since 2009, and I was a part of the program on the team in 2011, 12, and 14. And then I was asked to be a part of the coaching staff starting in 2015. So what this is cheerleading is trying to be implemented into the Olympic Games. And this past year, it has been accepted as an Olympic sport, which is really exciting for our industry and our sport. It's getting the recognition that we've all worked so hard to just show how athletic that we are. And this year, we have 4 members on our all-girl team that are representing WKU on this U.S. national team. And they had tryouts back in the fall, made the team, and now they've had some different training weekends. You just kind of see, this is a little clip that they had going on at their very first training. They train with athletes from universities all over the country. When they go and compete, they will compete against 60 to 75 other countries down in Orlando, Florida, and ultimately go for the gold. That's what the U.S. cheerleading was born here in the United States, and it is our pride and joy to show the world the best cheerleading in the world. So I'm very excited for these girls. I won't coach them personally when they're there, but I will get to be there and be a part of that with them, just on the other side, on the co-ed side. So we're super excited about that. Just to kind of end us out, and then we're just going to show you a clip from nationals. This is our co-ed winning routine, and then after this is shown, we'll open up the floor for questions, or if you guys have anything you'd like to ask me or any of our other athletes, you'll be more than welcome to. I hope the sound works. It doesn't look like it is. I know.
Jeff, you got us on the sound?
Might have to be on the video.
Maybe it's not through Zoom.
Also looks good. So this year, this team is considered small co-ed because we compete with 5 guys and then the rest are girls. They are increasing the numbers in the division. So last year we competed with 16. This year we competed with 18. And the next year they're moving the numbers up to 20. All girl competes with 20. They always have. So they are increasing the co-ed numbers as well. It is our plan to jump into the large co-ed division very, very soon. I would like to say we will make that jump this next year, but again, we're going to wait for tryouts and make sure that we are prepared, because if we go into a division like that, I want to make sure that we are in contention for a national title. If we choose to make that jump, then we will be competing against our neighbors up the street in that awful blue color. And I can say that because I cheered for it. Now, you know, red is the new blue. That's what I like to say. So that being the case, when we go large co-ed next year, you'll see 11 males on the floor and 9 females. So it's important that our co-ed program continues to grow. This past year, we had 12 males on the team, period. And then we had about 12 girls as well. So we'll need to see that number increase just a little bit, just to make sure that we have the personnel appropriate to go into that division as well.
Allie, we talk a little bit about, or maybe the athletes talk about the training regimen. It's not just in the gym, it's not just in the practice gym, it's also in the physical gym with weight training, nutrition, but the amount of time this takes.
Good. Y'all know, y'all living it right now.
So we have 3 practices a week. We practice on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Also, we have 2 workouts a week where we are in the weight room in Diddle with Coach Cal, who has been amazing for our growth. And being a senior, this is my first year that we've had a strength coach. And you can just see the difference that it has made in the program. The strength of the athletes, even preventing injuries with people that were stronger, more flexible, and more capable of doing these skills, and were safe doing them. And then also in the past, we've had a nutritionist who has talked to us about nutrition and fueling your bodies and making sure we are eating properly and eating enough, because in nationals, we go through 2-day practices where we're practicing in the morning and we're practicing at night, and making sure we're eating enough to get our bodies through that.
So for 2-a-days, that's all through Christmas break. So when they are finished with their finals, they are here until probably the 22nd of December, doing 2-a-days every day, sprinkling some basketball games in there. And they'll go home, they'll come back the 26th, I think. We start practices again on the 27th and hit full speed ahead between then, and we'll leave for nationals. Typically, it's around Martin Luther King weekend, every weekend in January. So once we come back from Christmas break, we are still 2-a-days, and then we'll start doing performances there to prepare them for nationals. I think this year they had 36 days of 2-a-days. Yeah, so it was a lot. And, you know, just with the difference in coaching styles from what they've had in the past to now, I know that was a big shock on their bodies as well. So, yes, huge thanks to Coach Cal for being able to get us through that. But if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to say anything.
You mentioned strength and nutrition, which are important
Yes.
for prevention of injuries and recovery. The other thing that we know is very important for those things is sleep. How many of y'all need sleep? I mean, very seriously, injuries are much more common in sleep-deprived people, and recovery from injuries is hindered greatly if you're not getting a good night's sleep.
I think one thing that helps is, since it is over Christmas break, we don't have classes going on. So when we're not at practice, we can sleep and eat. So it's kind of just, it becomes our full-time job. We don't have school
Is that
in the
a
way.
topic y'all talk about, or
Yes.
Allie, y'all?
It's certainly not as big of an emphasis that we put on eating and, you know, nutrition and strength and conditioning. But that's certainly focused on, you know, when we're ending our day, we instruct them, you know, this is your time to go home and rest. You know, if you want to socialize with each other, by all means, but, you know, we typically let them out around 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and then we'll start the next day around 10 a.m. So it's not super early. We're not getting them, we're allowing them as much time as we can. And like they said, I think being Christmas break allows for a lot of not having classes helps with that too.
I think one great thing is also priority registration, so that like with classes, if we do a practice, we can like have schedule our classes in times where if we need like a little rest and just to lay in bed and rejuvenate our bodies before practice, after class, we have the ability to do so because we do get to register early.
And all of our practice times like that are not in national season are very convenient because they're in the evening or at night. So during the week when we're in the normal semester, we'll practice after 6 p.m. And then on the weekends, we might practice in the afternoon. So we can have like a consistent sleep schedule and keep up with jobs and schoolwork and that as well.
Anyone else have any more questions or any comments?
I have a comment. Olivia, you were very nice to say that Allie doesn't say enough about herself. You don't say enough about yourself.
That is true too. That is true
We
too.
talk about staff leadership on campus and collaboration and the effectiveness of rising stars and people that we need to retain. Just like with Travis Hudson as a coach, our staff members like Olivia, who are examples of outstanding leadership. We talk about staff-driven initiatives, and we don't mention athletics enough as a staff-driven initiative. These students are working with staff. These are not faculty-driven things. They're competing. This is about the total university experience. Some have jobs, which you mentioned, in addition to all of these other activities. So building these complete individuals is driven by people like Olivia and Allie and those people in charge. And I think it's a tremendous effort. You know, you mentioned early on, who mentioned that 140 kids came to a clinic, right? Essentially a day clinic. I mean, that's 140 touches of potential students. And you reinforced with the branding and the positive attitude and our success as homecoming, queen, sorority involvement, all these extracurricular activities that really complement growth of individuals. To see those as living examples is just a tremendous thing. And I can't say enough about the work in athletics. We talk, you know, there's some perceptions back and forth sometimes about this and that, but the total body of work that comes out of that area is just so impressive. And I can't say enough about people like Olivia and Allie and all of you, all those athletes that are in that area.
I can definitely like speak to that too, and like preparation for the future and how like it's so like awesome to be a part of something that pours into you so much. So this university has poured into me so much, this program has poured into me so much. And just like going into the future, just knowing like that you're leaving something better than you thought.
Abby is, she doesn't, speaking of someone that doesn't give herself a whole lot of credit, Abby does everything. I mean, everything. She's got so much on her plate, and she has applied to law schools all over the country and is just getting accepted to all of them. She's been accepted to UK. She's been accepted to U of L. And she's just waiting on more. She's waiting on more acceptance to make her decision. But yes, having someone like her crowned as homecoming queen, just I think you could see if you look back at all of those pictures and that experience, just how much she is loved by her university and by her program like cheer. And she truly does deserve all of that. And all of our athletes are just, they do a phenomenal job of being such great people. And they're more than so much, they're so much more than just a cheerleader. And so I'll be their biggest cheerleader.
Abby, you're also alumni.
Yes, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm a student alumni ambassador, so I served as the membership chair of that last year. In terms of my involvement, like within SGA, I was the scholarship chair my sophomore year. I got to do a couple of great things with that. I revitalized a program called Earn a Computer Program, and so I got to award over 20 computers to students in need that didn't have access to that technology, especially during COVID. I worked with the surplus office. So it was like free of cost thing. I created the first ISEC scholarship through SGA's. Last year I served as the executive vice president of SGA. I was the Circle of Sisterhood director for Panhellenic and funded a school build in Malawi for underserved children. So I've just served in a lot of different like leadership positions like throughout campus. And it's really like the support system that I've gone through cheer is awesome for that. And as Allie's it's prepared me for the future. It's given me a strong mentality. It's taught me discipline. It's taught me how to mesh well with others. So it's like all of these life lessons that I will take into the future. So went through the application process for law school during nationals. So that was exciting. And yeah, I've been accepted to 5 law schools and just waiting to hear back from a couple more, but just leaving knowing that I have all these experiences and all this preparation for the future. My personal statement for law school is actually about being a D1 athlete and kind of like being an advocate for athletes because I want to do sports law. So definitely prepared me for the future and inspired me for that. So
I met her because she was a student alumni ambassador and she attended the sisterhood luncheon that we had back in November. And she was seated at my table and we got to talk quite a bit. And then, of course, I found out she was nail pie and queen and other things like that. But it was just a pleasure to get to meet you then. And I've followed you ever since then. But I mean, cheers to the alumni ambassador program, or the student alumni ambassador program. It's actually quite good. And it was good to meet students that come to our meetings and interact. And it was a pleasure.
that was a fun meeting. Yeah.
Let me point out, Allie is a graduate, born and reared in Glasgow, America.
Yes.
To piggyback off of like what everyone was saying, most of us here in like the collegiate level chair have been cheering for a long time. Me personally, I've been cheering since I was in the 2nd grade. I'm a sophomore here on the Hill. And I just want to emphasize I've never been a part of a program as like supportive and rigorous as the one that Allie has created for us. And the support that we get from all over campus, from the athletic department, like Liv, from you all, and from the students here as well. Like when we see people on campus, they'll interact with us, interact with them, the people of the community as well. So it's just nice to have a seat at the table, I guess, and feel wanted and feel that we are being poured into with support. And with that support, we can give good outcomes for our campus here as well and bring in national titles. And we hope to do more in the future, you know, to build a legacy here. And, you know, red is the new blue.
Yeah, so with senior day being tomorrow at our last home basketball game, I get to recognize my great group of seniors, and there's been, you know, there's a group of them that are fourth year members. So they've been here and they've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that senior class, the coolest thing about them that I get to say about them and brag on them is they're all leaving. They brought a national title to this university, each and every one of them. And I just think that that's something really special. You don't see that a lot. And our future is definitely bright here at WKU.
Anything else?
Nice hardware that they're wearing on their.
Was there a picture where you all holding out?
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
thank you guys again for taking the time to listen to us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Dr. Bill, that wraps up student affairs.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we have several announcements concerning meetings for the rest of the year. They're there for our calendars. And if there is no other business to bring forth, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn.